Recognized, Uncle Walker, D01. Recognized, Emily of Arden, D12. Recognized, Joe Moniac, D05.
Hello, team. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us for episode 15 of Whelmed Season 4. My name is Rich, and with me is my co-host Emily and producer Neil.
Hey everyone, in these review episodes we'll be diving into the plots, characters, Easter eggs, comic book history, and everything else of Young Justice, and use all of that as a springboard to talk about the creative writing process along the way.
Our review segments will avoid any major spoilers for later episodes, but we'll be discussing them in detail in our final segment, Crashing the Mode.
And you can't tell anyone about us or Bioship or anything. So please, get on board so we can get out of the way.
And with all that out of the way, let's hand it over to Emily for...
Hello, Megan!
The title of this week's episode is Ebb Tide. The release date was March 31st of 2022. The in-episode dates were May 14th and 15th. The writer was Greg Weisman, the director was Christina Soda, and the voice director was, as always, Jamie Thomason.
Special guest voice credits include D. Bradley Baker as Chameleon Boy and Devourer,
Robbie Damon as Wind and Blubber,
David Kay as Arian and Vandal Savage,
Phil Lamar as Orin and Calvin Durham,
Yuri Lowenthal as Lagan,
Tia Sarkar as Delphise,
Roger Craig Smith as Ocean Master and Rodin,
Kath Soki as Marineris,
Tara Strong as Shalana,
and Carrie Walgren as Saturn Girl.
Just in time for your next mission.
This week's episode begins at Bibbo's Diner in Metropolis, where Clark Kent is approached during his early morning coffee by two teenagers who recognize him as Superman. The two teens actually turn out to be Saturn Girl and Chameleon Boy, who are here to ask for his help. And after the credits in Poseidonus, recovery efforts are still underway nearly a month after Ocean Master's attack, and there's unrest in nearly every city-state, especially Zebel, where Queen Mira's own father has stoked the people's resentment of King Orin. Meanwhile, somewhere out in deep space, or wherever he is, a transparent Connor continues space rock hopping, hoping to find help for himself and Phantom Girl, only to be violently attacked by a giant space shark thing. I don't know what that thing is.
Meanwhile,
The Devourer.
Yeah,
the Devourer.
but still, you know what I mean. What is it?
What? I think you nailed it, Space Shark thing. Back in Poseidonus, Mira goes to Orin to discuss the rumors circulating among the people about the mysterious hooded stranger's triumph over Ocean Master, fitting the description of the prophecy of the one true king. After hearing the full prophecy for himself, Orin suggests that perhaps Ocean Master intentionally orchestrated the fight with this in mind, and declares that finding the man who defeated Ocean Master must now be a top priority. Elsewhere, we learn that Delphise has been staying with Wind and Calder to help with the rebuilding efforts. And a call between Calder and his parents reinforces the idea that Calder's been taking on extra responsibility his entire life, and that he's not allowing himself any time to rest during this hunt for Ocean Master. But this attempt at introspection is interrupted, of course, by a giant red vortex of fire appearing in the middle of Poseidonus, an event which we saw from Zatanna's perspective back in episode 12.
Back in Metropolis, Superman, not to be confused with Clark Kent,
They're totally different.
meets with Saturn Girl and Chameleon Boy, who reveal their mission and what they've been up to since we saw them. Turns out they've traveled back in time to prevent the death of Superboy, which they accomplished previously outside of the UN after the events of the season 3 finale, but failed to do so on Mars. Now their time sphere is broken, preventing them from trying again. And they believe they lost Phantom Girl in the explosion that killed Connor. Then they return back to Earth from Mars with the help of Bioship. Not to be confused with Baby Bioship, who agreed to assist them and bring them back to Earth. Apparently, Superboy's death has thrown the future the Legionnaires come from into chaos, and they're asking Superman to take Superboy's place at a critical event in Happy Harbor 10 years from now, hoping that this will restore the timeline and bring order back to their time period.
Back in Poseidonus, Ocean Master arrives on the scene, this time to actually assist Queen Mira in neutralizing Child's pillar of underwater fire that's been poisoning the surrounding ocean with a deadly red mist. Meanwhile, somewhere out in space, Superboy continues to fight a giant space shark, But eventually he realizes that the only reason the creature can hurt him is because it's attracted to his anger. And by calming his mind with thoughts of those he loves, he's able to become incorporeal and the monster loses interest. Now, with that problem solved, but nowhere to go, Connor is back to square one of staring out into lots of rocks and lots of mist.
Back underwater, the hooded stranger appears once again, this time to assist Mara and Ocean Master in suppressing the Pillar of Fire, also fulfilling the second part of the prophecy. When Orm turns on Mara, unsurprisingly, after the crisis is averted, the stranger steps in, saving Mara's life, defeating Ocean Master, and taking the trident. King Orm then beats Ocean Master in a fistfight and has him arrested again. In the aftermath, the stranger gives Mara the trident and reveals himself to be Arion, the founder of Atlantis and Vandal Savage's grandson.
And over in Central City, Saturn Girl and Chameleon Boy arrive on Bart Allen's doorstep. And somewhere out in space, after the crisis with Child was averted, Vandal Savage is just making sure all of his assets are secure and the future plans are in place.
In a way that is in no way ominous.
On the Wall World.
Superboy, are you alright?
I'm fine. Feeling the Aster.
I have to open up Aster with the My Friend Clark stuff. I just lost it.
Yep.
It's so funny.
It's very good.
And he delivers it so badly.
It's the
Like he's just like the worst liar.
just the purest Superman commit to the bit kind of thing.
My friend Clark said, and Saturn Girl's like, seriously? Are we doing this right
It's
now?
like, look, nope, cool, fine. Don't have time for that. Not at all.
I just don't. No. Telepathy? No? Okay. Here we go.
I feel like they did this in the comics too at one point, in the Invasion comics, when there's the flashbacks to him and Bialia.
Yeah, Miss Martian.
Miss Martian is like, Superman? He's like, what are you talking about,
What
young
is happening
girl?
right
She's
now?
like, don't, I know you're Superman. You look exactly like Connor. I know what he looks like.
I don't even need to be a telepath for that. Yeah. So funny.
He thinks he's very subtle. He's not. I also, along those lines, I also have the note here that if you look at the timestamps, Clark is fully dressed, out of the house, reading the newspaper and drinking his morning diner coffee before 6 a.m. If you look at the timestamps. And I'm just like, Clark Kent has his life together, and it is slightly terrifying.
He is the first and only person in Bibos.
In Bibos. Yeah, that's why he and Bibbo were besties.
Yep.
Good. Yeah, I got your coffee right here.
And he's reading about the Roanoke Island disaster, which obviously refers to Child and Clarion's fun little fight in the previous episode. But what's also interesting is, like, I think based on the timestamps, that like that's just like the previous night, and then he's reading about it in the next morning. But
That makes sense.
Yep.
It's always funny to me to watch scenes like this, because when I was growing up, that before like Crisis on Infinite Earths and all of that stuff, Superboy was Clark as a teenager, right? So it was the Superboy in the Legion of Superheroes back in the day was Clark being a Superboy, right? And in the animated series, the Legion animated series, which people can go watch, is quite good. A lot of the episodes were directed by Brandon Vietti, actually. They do the same kind of thing where they find Clark when he's young and he hasn't really developed his powers yet to come to the future and be a part of the Legion, because that Superboy Clark is who inspired them. And so it's always just a little, because that's what I grew up with. That's what my brain does. And I get intellectually that Connor is the one who inspires this Legion, but them talking to Clark directly about how this other stuff happens with Superboy and that he needs to be somewhere in 10 years. And it's just this funny, disjointed, old comic reader brain. I'm like, no, just do Superman.
well, they did. They're like, this will solve it.
But also, like, I don't know, maybe actually I got a few things that might be crashing the mode, so we can talk about that later. But
Okay, who's ready? Shakespeare.
what else you got?
I got a Shakespeare. Well, I mean, it's just
You do.
well, I mean, it's your
I think
it's your
that's not your
common
job.
misquote of the Shakespeare. So then I guess that's why I'm in because it's a misquote. Because heavy the head that wears the crown. But that is not the original line from Henry IV, part 2. Electric Boogaloo is what I remember it named as.
Yeah, that's the official.
Uneasy lies the head that wears a crown.
Oh, and what did they say?
Well, I mean, your super common version, heavy is the head that wears the crown.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotcha.
But that's not Shakespearean enough.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
That's usually Emily's territory.
It's okay. I'm not that familiar with the histories. I was only in one of them in college.
Oh,
If you do,
gotcha.
like, there's so much in the whole, like, that whole cycle. There's so much. They're not the ones that you study the most, and they're not the ones that you do the most. So I was only in one in college, and I didn't read most of them.
It's okay. Rich, speaking of histories, did you ever watch the Superman Aquaman Hour of Adventure?
I have visual memories and sense memories of sitting on a carpet in front of a giant ka-chunk 500-pound cathode ray tube TV watching, I think, reruns of that were coming on in the 70s. Because I think that was out in 68, 69?
67. Well done.
67. Yeah. So I was, I must have been 4 or 5 watching reruns of that with Aquaman on the back of the seahorse, which as an adult makes no sense to me because they are the slowest swimmers of the sea.
And I mean, I guess maybe if you get one at size, maybe it works out. But that
I don't know.
I was like,
that,
yeah, Rich, I don't think the speed is the initial problem there, actually.
No, it's a giant seahorse.
No, they don't
boy,
swim very well.
You should probably just get a dolphin or something because they're not built. They're like a fish, but facing the wrong direction. Seahorses.
But that's the
Oh, yeah.
like stained glass mosaic thing behind him is him riding a seahorse. So
Uh-huh.
like, that's
that's
what it made
sure.
me think of because it's like it's such an iconic version of the character
Yeah.
from that time. And so then I was like, wait,
Yep.
is it? Does he ride a? Oh, and then I had to look that
And
one up.
Topo was an actual octopus, if I remember correctly from that show. So they made him into it. They made him into like a Cthulhu mind flare creature, but which is fun. But Topo is usually often depicted as actual octopus.
Most, if not all, of the episodes are on Daily Motion. If you'd like to experience the joy that is watching those now, because I watched one and I don't know how I feel about all that because there's a lot for me to take in.
I love how in this episode, like, I hate to say it because I love Aquaman so much, but I'm like, did you ever see the funny commercials that they do with like Powerpuff Girls and stuff on Cartoon Network back in the day with the Super Friends? Did you ever see those?
Oh, yeah.
So they had like Aquaman and Wonder Woman tied up and trapped, and then the Powerpuff Girls come and rescue them. He was like, they were asking him like Aquaman what his powers were, and he's like, swims fast, talks to fish. He's like, oh, they're trying to escape. He's like, my ability to speak to the fishes is of no use in this situation, or something like that. In this episode, he's like, I've told all the wildlife to leave. And he's like, how can I help, Mara? And she's like, you're good, honey.
Yeah.
It's like she's like patting him on the head.
He's like, oh,
"That
good.
was- good job,
Crowd control.
Good job.
Great.
Great crowd control again."
Well, the other vibe I get a lot from him while it's going through is just, I'm too old for this, the full Murtaugh. And we can talk more about that in Crashing the Mode, but like, it's just like, oh, perception. Oh, when I was Aquaman, all
I ever heard about was his ability to talk to the fish is of no use right now.
his focus isn't where it should be.
And that's right. Exactly. So funny. What else you guys got?
We got Bioship. I love Bioship. I love Bioship getting a little side quest. I love that apparently all it takes for Bioship to help people is just being like, something Superboy, and she's like, yep, that's part of my crew.
I'm coming out of retirement immediately.
And I like that Superman says that she's an excellent character reference.
I love that too. You should have helped. You should have started.
You should have led with Bioship, which means Superman also interacts with this spaceship, and that's lovely. I love these implications. What do you got, Neil?
Well, like Delphis as the sister vibe is so good. Like, she's obviously taken to that role. And I was trying to think of how long it's been, but obviously it's long enough to be like, hey, can you call mom and dad so that they stop messaging me? That'd be great. I mean, as an only child, but I've interacted with enough people to see and, watch enough media, but it's just like, hey, mom and dad keep calling, asking about you, just call them so they stop messaging me.
It's great. I also do. I love that whole conversation with Calder and his parents. And again, reinforcing this idea and showing us that our idea that like Calder's always been the adult in the room is actually a very long-standing tradition.
The thing that's really interesting to me too is that for the number of people that I've run into, or parents that I've run into, including, and anyone really, when you have a situation where stuff is happening, somebody's sick, somebody's having a big trauma in their life as an adult, and the kids have to kind of fend for themselves, the old latchkey kind of kids, but also other families. It's pretty great that his parents are like, yeah, we weren't great. We weren't great. This was not a good place. We were not in a good place. You were great. And it's like, we need you to restore that to something else, because we're seeing how we're better now. We've healed ourselves. Now it's time to help heal you, because you had to do these things when we were younger, and they're taking full ownership of it, and that's hard to do.
Yeah.
My wife and I, with the school that we run now, the homeschool classes and after school classes and stuff that we run, we're big on, it's not just supporting the kids, but it's also supporting the parents, and we're big proponents of heal yourself, heal your kids, right? If your kids are having issues, then maybe see if there's something you need to work on for yourself too, so that you can both heal. And they just really kind of hit those beats really nicely in these scenes.
Yeah, my line, and I wrote it down because it stands out so much. No, but it's sweet that you remember the hard times so fondly.
Yeah,
and you do as a kid, because I recognize now, growing up when we had first moved to California, how hard it was for my parents, like from a financial perspective, that like the community we were in, like the only reason we had, I know the first Christmas, the only reason we had is because it was brought over by someone else. And
right.
So, but I don't know nothing about, up until I'm well into being an adult. I didn't know nothing about nothing. I didn't have any idea, and I had a great Christmas from my personal perspective. But at the same time, like, reverse engineering that for myself now is like, I'm pretty sure they had a terrible Christmas. Like thinking that, feeling that, and the two examples here, like, my kid's out doing odd jobs because I can't get hired anywhere. And like, but it's the only way we can make ends meet. And like, couple that with, her, the mom going through depression at the same time, and totally understandable reasons potentially why. Like, you've married this man who is seen as an outsider to the nth degree, and now all of these other things. And you also have a child, which, timeline wise, how much do you know about his true parentage and things like, and so it's like, I get it. There's a whole heck of a lot going on.
A lot of trauma to be healed and worked through, and we all got to do that and got to work on it every day. But we often forget how it affects our kids, and so them being able to kind of get to this place where they're good now, where they can really put a finger on, oh yeah, we did X, therefore Calder does Y. And so we need to perhaps help him get perspective on that, because it's not going to go well. He is going to crash and burn.
Yeah. And again, I mean, we talked about it last time, but I mean, still seeing the, his approach and in direct comparison to Gar's, which I really don't feel like I did while watching them when they were releasing. I don't think I was making those connections, which I think is an important connection to make. To say, hey, even with the right support system, without doing the right things, you can still totally crash and burn. Also, just choosing to shirk all of those will get you to, get you to that crash and burn a whole lot faster.
Yeah, absolutely. After that deep conversation,
to change the tone, I've admitted it to both of you, and I will do so on air. I definitely and 100% completely forgot the timeline of these episodes in comparison to previous episodes that we have discussed. And by previous episodes, I mean just the last episode.
It's the last episode, yeah.
I had completely forgotten that the last episode is, and Emily and I were talking about it, where that's closer in time to when the Artemis arc is happening, and this episode is clearly directly timed with the Zatanna arc happening. And I'm not going to lie to you, I did not watch the previous episode in that light. I definitely watched it as if it was happening.
I don't think it came across that way, though.
No, but I'm just saying, I realize in hindsight, I had no clue. It just slipped my brain completely.
I love the fact that they don't try to like, okay, we do Artemis's, and then we're going to start a week later is going to be Zatanna's, and then a week later is going to be, it's like, no, these are people's lives are happening all at the same time. Like, so they crossing them over and then also like seeing the Ankh show up for a hot second and then leave just makes me wonder, like, what's Aquaman / Calder like? Whoa, what now? What was that? Okay, I got business to do. But he's definitely gives it like a side eye of like, could you help out or like what happened there? Because they clearly don't know it's happening all over the world. So
again, it's that whole thing about how all of the events in Zatanna's arc are like in the magic arc are like that weird combination of this is a global problem and also things are very isolated. Like people don't know what's going on. The fact that like Superman is just reading a newspaper in this episode about the thing that happened the previous day, or even during the magic arc where they show Beast Boy just watching the news in a Hollywood where nothing is on fire. And you're like, this is wild.
That's going to leave a mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although we do start to get that connection, and it's really quick, but Mara thanks Nimue, which is Madame Xanadu's actual name, Nimue in Voodoo, and she's like, thanks for the heads up. And then it was clearly more than a heads up, because she's like, this and this and this and this and this is happening. Also, we can't do anything but deal with the one right outside our door.
Right in front of us. Yeah. Yeah.
Also,
it's awesome.
The other thing and please stop me if this ends up crashing the mode, but I don't think it does. But the other interesting thing was how custom Child made each of them. So you have this giant pillar of fire, which in essence is a very large problem in and of itself. But like, to add insult to injury, it's like, also here's this red mist that's just going to murder all of the ocean life. Or, hey, here's a bunch of demons coming out of this one. And so I was like, did you just add it? You just had to add extra spice, or like, where did the red mist come from in comparison to where the demons came from? Like, what? Okay. I don't have an answer.
Neil, are you trying to logic chaos magic?
A little. I tried. It didn't work.
She's just keeping things interesting. Variety is the spice of life.
Also, I'll bring it back around. Come with me on this journey. Did either of you watch Arrested Development?
Take us on a trip. Not enough to be able to reference.
All right. So that makes it less, but I guess we would assume
only to talk about at parties.
Perfect. Yes. Just as many listeners may also not know, but an extra season came out on Netflix. But one of the limiting production factors was they could only get the cast all together for a couple days. So what they ended up doing is filming the individual arcs separately and then having those pieces. So you kind of rewatched certain events as you went through this season of Arrested Development. You would rewatch scenes from different perspectives to some degree, because you physically didn't have people in the same location for all but a couple days. My thought here is, and people didn't necessarily, and I'm not implying this is a direct connection, but people did not necessarily enjoy that method because it did not feel like Arrested Development. And so someone recut the 10 episodes down to 7 or 8 in full chronological order. Dear listener, if you were to do that for this, I'd be super appreciative and watch the heck out of it. Just whoever you are out there, do that, please.
You will definitely get a fan service from Neil.
Well, I just wonder about what does that look like to have Madame Xanadu having that scene and then cutting to Mira saying thank you, and then then having that continue, having the magic arc happen, them show up, but then you show this battle, but then you potentially cut back to the magic arc back and forth. Would you take the first episode, previous
sounds like
episode,
a movie almost,
and put it back during the Artemis arc? What would this? I guess me taking way too. This is how the podcast works. Me taking way too long with why I wonder what this would look like in chronological order.
It's the chronological order spreadsheet taken to its most extreme extent.
Yeah. Rather than even just the individual. Watch this episode. Then this episode. No, watch this timestamp to this timestamp. This timestamp to that timestamp. Yeah,
I think it'd be cool. We would definitely give you a fan service.
Yeah, whoever you are,
for an inordinate amount of work.
Yes,
for that reward.
On another comedic note, as King Orin goes to save Blubber, he shouts, "Hold on! To what and how? He's nothing. That's just very, I mean, it's such a, like, of course that's what you would say as you're heroically saving someone. He has no hands. You're also holding the back of him. He has nothing to do but just enjoy the ride and not
Enjoy
die.
the ride.
Hold on. Okay.
Figurative language, Neil.
I know.
Figurative language.
There is nothing else a person would say as they save someone. I fully understand that, but I nonetheless found it very funny.
Watching the scene later when he's standing there and he's holding, like, he's doing science with Volko later. I can't help but look at Blubber and think, Jabberjaws? Do you guys know Jabberjaws? So when Scooby-Doo came out in the late 60s, there was like a gabillion cartoons that had 4 teenage kids and a talking something. So, oh God, Dune Buggy. There was a talking Dune Buggy with the kids who rode in him and blah, blah, blah. So Jabberjaws was one of them where it was 4 kids and a talking, walking shark that talked like Rodney Dangerfield. It was very strange. But he's walking around on his fins like that. Like, I was watching this and I'm like, it's like a weird, I don't think that's going to work. I mean, there's a lot of things in here we got a hand wave, but a big old baleen whale on his fins. Okay. All right. We're going to just hand wave
Rich.
That. What?
Atlantean magic.
Sure. Okay.
I accept.
Alrighty then. Alrighty then. It is a whale doing science, so I guess I can say something. Yeah. Anyway, look up Jabberjaws. It's ridiculous. Probably on the same place you can watch the 1967 Aquaman and Superman.
It might be on Daily Motion. It might be.
Anything else you got, Neil?
Oh, I have all kinds of extras. I feel like this is okay, and we could probably move any actual answers to these questions to Crashing the Mode. But okay, so what happens in 10 years? To the day. 10 years to the day. Also,
I got some Crashing the Mode for that, but
and then also, like, you've gone to Bart, which I was like, oh yeah, when is, the exact date? I'm like, when is Bart from? Bart is from 2056.
So way farther in the future.
So that'd be another almost 30 years past when Superman is supposed to be in Happy Harbor. Yeah, so that makes me think a lot of things. Also, the level of inspiration that Superboy has for the Legion is always interesting because there are things that they know, things that they don't know, but definitely, so please get on board so we can get out of the way. It's so ingrained in your lexicon that you're able to, manipulate it to fit what you want to say.
They were inspired by Superboy.
No, that's what I mean.
Right?
It's just it's so ingrained of like, I can make the twist knowing that you will know the twist because you're the first person that ever heard it. So I just thought it was really, I mean, the lexicon really cool. Just throughout time, apparently. So Kath Suki, so she's great as Mara, but I couldn't help but like keep hearing other characters that she's played just because of the tone. So she's the weird sisters in Gargoyles. So when she's reading the prophecy, that's all I can see. That all I can see is the weird, because that's how they talk. It's always in this, like prophetic kind of tone or
echoey prophetic tone.
And so they like every time she was doing it, and there was another one and I couldn't figure it out. And I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what other character. So this one will harken back to, one of the weirdest X-Men properties that are out there. It is a pilot from 1989 called X-Men Pride of the X-Men that was not picked up and made into the animated series.
Wait, so it was supposed to be a spinoff from the 80s X-Men animated?
No. So this is, so X-Men Pride of the X-Men is just a fully developed and released pilot called Pride of the X-Men, which I
have never heard of this.
Well, do you remember the arcade game? Where you'd play Colossus and you'd have the 6-person. That's based.
Loved that game.
That's based off of that original pilot.
No, the game was?
Yeah. So it's a pilot.
Dude, you're blowing my mind.
Never picked up, never made into a series. It is literally it's narrated
It's a one shot?
Yeah, it's narrated by Stanley. And Kath plays Kitty Pryde. And so that strain in the voice that she uses when she's doing the spells as Mara mimics so closely that like the tone of voice that she has as Kitty Pryde when she's getting hurt in that one-off, and it's so ingrained. I literally have multiple copies of the VHS because I wore out one of them because it was like my favorite. For whatever reason, I completely latched on Pride of the X-Men. Wolverine is like the most, like, it's funny because he's so Australian, and then later you have Hugh Jackman playing him. Very funny.
Yeah, but he's not Australian.
No.
And here it is. My gosh, the Wikipedia animated television pilot originally broadcast in '89 on the Marvel Action Universe television block featuring Marvel Comics mutant superheroes of the X-Men. The pilot aired infrequently in syndication and was later released on video. It later served as the basis for Konami's X-Men arcade game. You are rocking my world right now, my friend. I have never heard of this.
Yeah, and the legal rights to it are super interesting. That when the Konami arcade game got ported, they were allowed to do nothing about it. Like they could change nothing. They couldn't add voice lines. And so my favorite line, the Japanese to English translation, Magneto flies in. He's like, Magneto, I have the power of magnet, and then just like keeps going. Not magnetism, just magnet. Not magnets either, plural, just magnet. Just a singular magnet. That is the power he wields. Yeah, it's an amazing game. I played it so much. It felt innovative as an arcade box. I actually tried to figure out how to make one, and you actually back then you had one TV that was facing you, one TV in reverse that was below it and reflected onto a mirror so that it felt like you had one singular screen because it couldn't make a screen that large. So yes. All of that to say, dear listener, if you've not watched Pride of the X-Men, go watch it. It's literally worth the theme alone. Nonetheless, a very good episode, and I have no idea why I didn't get picked up.
It says, shortly after this pilot was delivered, Marvel started having financial issues. New World Pictures, who purchased the Marvel Entertainment Group, had some challenges, stopped work on every project in progress except Muppet Babies. Great. The pilot effectively marked the end of the Marvel animated universe that had been created, which began with Fantastic Four in '78 and continued with Spider-Woman, Spider-Man, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, and The Incredible Hulk through 1982. The X-Men themselves had previously guest starred in several episodes of different shows, although that particular series wasn't necessarily in the same continuity as Pride of the X-Men. Huh. Wow. Okay. I got to go track this thing down. Thunderbird was in it?
An absolute
Wait, the team
must watch.
The team lineup for the X-Men is similar to the lineup from the 1975 all-new, all-different X-Men. The chief differences are that Thunderbird, Banshee, and Sunfire are not on the team in the cartoon, although they would also be the shortest-lived members of the comics iteration, while Kitty Pryde and Dazzler would both join later. Okay, cool. Yeah. Wow. Huh.
Yeah.
I'm going to track this down.
Oh, it's
all right.
Very good.
We just took a sharp left turn into X-Men, which I am all on board for.
I could probably describe the entire episode to you. I will not at this time, but dear listener, if that's something you want, super weird. Don't ask. Don't ask. Just watch it.
Not for nothing, by the way, but the one season they did of Wolverine and the X-Men is freaking brilliant. It is brilliant, and you should go watch it. It is excellent. So, you should go do that as well.
Okay.
All right.
The Devourer.
Where were we now? Oh yeah, Shark Guy.
Which is interesting because it's credited in the voice credits, but obviously it's not like
named
or like it pops up the Devourer roars or in the closed captions or anything like that.
There's no
So my final pre-crashing the mode is Vandal taking full inventory of everything, terrifying, and leaving it on the war world, very disconcerting. Not a fan.
War World returns to Happy Harbor in 10 years at noon. That's what Superman has to be there for.
Wow.
There you go.
Also, so the way he says it is, check the Cybacks, update the inventory, and seal this chamber. So that is implying to me that this chamber is where things are held. And this is like, from our perspective, we can already see 3 stories and a drone flying around. So our uncomfortable level of like, I wonder how much stuff he has is clearly, I think he has way more stuff than even I would have thought.
Yeah, of course he does. He's been doing this a minute. What do you got, Emily? We covered some things you were diving in on. Do you have more stuff?
Well, my last note, I think this is the only thing that we haven't covered so far, is I got to shout out that Connor's survival mechanism getting him through a fight with a giant space shark thing is just rooted in his larger story arc of overcoming his early anger and frustration and learning how to regulate and process his emotions in a healthier way. And that's just really good continuity that we continue to show that that's a good thing Connor has learned and has evolved. And also, Connor's happy place is just him and McGann happy and in love with Sphere and Wolf nearby and a meaningful project to work on. And that's just fine. That's totally fine.
When this scene popped up, I was like, oh, it's an Emily scene. They wrote this for Emily.
I am a simple woman.
You know what they need? Man, the only thing they don't have is Miss Martian kissing him on oh, there it is. There it is. Okay, cool. Miss Martian kissed him on the cheek. Great. We're good. Scene complete.
The aliens are in love, and this is deeply important to me.
Show them with both rings, and then add that little extra wrench turn there at the end to make sure it's wrenching your heart. Just a few more clicks.
Ba-dum-bum.
And then how that sound echoes into the thing when Connor's just staring out into space, and it's just him trying to continue to just stay calm and stay focused. It's very good. Very good sound editing.
Awesome. All right. Well, with all that out of the way, let's head into the mid-roll and then head into some crashing the mode and stuff. Let's do it.
Welcome to the Fake Your Own Death Club. Its membership is very exclusive, and I'm the president.
Hello, team, and welcome to the mid-roll. This one will be short. This week, I just want to take a quick moment to shout out all our patrons over on Patreon for their continued support, because you all helped this guy get a new hard drive for his computer because the last one failed. And it's been a long time since I've had to do something like that. And again, I just want to shout everyone that supports us, because that was a very easy thing for me to do, to get a new one. And we're back up and running with a much larger, better hard drive. So again, shout out to everyone who helps support Whelmed and for making it really easy for me to fix that and keep going. We have just a couple more episodes that we want to get in the can. I want to give a shout out. We have had an episode idea come our way via email that has been very interesting. I don't want to give up what that might be, but that is a really, really interesting thing. So as is want to do sometimes, a call to action. If you have any ideas on how we could keep going post Season 4, if that's something that you, the fans, are interested in, please send us an email at whelmedpodcast@gmail.com. And with that out of the way, let's head back to the show.
Stick around. Class is in session.
In our Canary Debrief, we'll be discussing what we can learn about the creative process from the episodes we review. So for today, given that we are starting to really dive back into the second half of Season 4, we are starting to get back into where the storylines are starting to intermingle again. And one of the terms that I've looked into and found online, because sometimes I have to find what maybe collectively we want to call something, but the idea of narrative threading is really important when you start to have an ensemble cast. If you have a story that you're writing and it's only 1, 2, 3 characters, sometimes those stories are just what they are. Or if you have a story that's a single perspective, it's relatively straightforward to continue to write that story from that perspective. When you have something like Young Justice, though, it starts to become something that is from very different perspectives or very different feels. This is a great example of that. There are very different settings. There are very different stories. Some of the stories from previously are crossing into this story. So again, the idea of narrative threading. If you've ever tried to thread something, like literally thread something through the eye of a needle, it's not the easiest thing to do. But once you can do it, and you can do it consistently and correctly, it just kind of feels like a second nature. So this continues to be the case here. One of the other things that becomes important, especially when framing it from an episodic approach, when you're taking those narrative threads and weaving them together, that there is some cohesive factor. So the elements of the episodes, you have your A plot, your B plot, your C plot, but all of those still work in tandem. And this is no surprise. Young Justice continues to do it episode after episode, where you have overarching themes. It's why you have episode titles. It's why you have log lines. It's why you have all of these things that continue to showcase certain elements about the show. Is it over the arc? Is it over an individual episode? But inevitably, when you're trying to write something that has all of these different perspectives, narrative threading becomes very important, because it's one thing to have two stories that almost jump genre, almost jump theme, almost jump all of these different things. It can feel very jarring, or like you didn't have a plan. And maybe that plan can pay off long term, but in the short term, it can feel to the reader, to the watcher, to whoever is observing the media that you're creating, as if maybe you didn't have a plan. Again, it is entirely possible that that is just a longer weave, if you will, to create that narrative thread that you're wanting to make. But it is important to take a look back at how your narrative actually threads together. It's one of the most important things that I have found when I write something that is longer, is going back and really rereading it and seeing what does and doesn't work. It's one of the biggest benefits that I've ever had from someone editing my work. I am not sacred about my personal work. I love when someone edits my work, because that is what their role is in this whole process. If I'm the one who wrote it, I always seek out an editor who is very willing to, and in my personal opinion, just bleed red on my work, because I would much rather that be the case than getting just something back that's like, yeah, that was great. Because I don't feel that way when I'm done with my work. Like, I've put the ideas there, but they need refinement, and that back and forth, that collaborative work is really important. And again, getting outside my own head, because I'll fix things in my head if I reread them. So having someone that can also look at those narrative threads, and maybe they don't interpret that thread together the way that you did as the writer, that's also another really important thing, is getting a second pair of eyes or ears on what you're working with to see how those all weave together. But again, the big thing is that ultimately narrative threading allows for a more organic and character-driven storytelling that doesn't just end up feeling like random subplots that are all jammed together. It's not just that by happenstance these things are all happening at the same time. They are, but there is also a narrative element that carries out through those subplots, and again, creates a cohesive episode, creates a cohesive arc, a cohesive season.
I've admired your stance on animal rights for years.
In fan service, we take some time to highlight the amazing fan-related creations celebrating DC, Young Justice, and other creative works we think Young Justice fans will love. And today, I was scouring the internet, because that is a requirement to keep finding fan services at this time, and what I stumbled upon was, dear listener, if you want to find your own souvenir on Etsy, I will have a link to it. There is a really well done. There are several STL files to create Cheshire's mask, but there is one where if you don't have your own 3D printer or all of those things, you can actually just buy one directly, and it is really well done. I've seen some of the photos of people that have painted it, and again, if you need your own souvenir that you want to put on your shelves, or start building out your own entire souvenir shelf, this is a great place to start. And of course, as always, there will be a link to that in the show notes, and shout out to Villainous Prop Shop for having that available for people. And there are a ton of really, really interesting things that they have that you can purchase. And I feel like they're going to take all my money now, but such is the way of the internet.
Tell us something we don't know yet.
Sorry, BB. We can't risk altering the time stream. We do that, we're all feeling the mode.
Our earlier segments assume listeners have only seen up to this episode in Season 4. In Crashing the Mode, we'll be discussing spoilers and foreshadowing for future episodes, as well as plot elements from the original DC storylines that may affect what we see later on. We may also drop theories and speculations about what's to come based on wild flights of fancy. So Neil, you had some stuff that you were talking about. My thing is like, okay, so they asked Superman to show up 10 years later at noon, and then they stand there and wait for a breath, and then they're like, well, that didn't work. So I'm like, okay, we know Superboy comes back, right? So he gets saved and he's back in the timeline. So
they do acknowledge that they might have just had so many jumps and everything that they're never going to just zap back to their original timeline, because their chronoton radiation and other such things that they might just be out of the loop now, kind of thing.
Which is true, which could be true. I also want to know, do you have speculations, Neil, about 10 years in the future?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Well, but I also think about like, yes and no, because Happy Harbor ends up being this like nexus point. Clearly, apparently, I watch enough Marvel to use the word nexus point or things like that. Just in the sense that that's where Bart comes back from, and that's where things blow up, and that's where Superboy became Superboy. So then, like, he's the main motivation for them, and that's where so many of them live, laugh, love, and all of those things. I thought you'd appreciate that. But the idea that, like, I think it's just a point at which things happen. And so then being there, what could happen? I don't know. I very much don't disagree with the idea that it is Vandal, or at least the culmination of the Vandal Darkseid stuff happening 10 years from that day.
Yeah. So, like, they're implying that the Legion's the inspirational event that starts the Legion starts on that day, 10 years from today at noon. So they went back in time and saved his life outside of the cafe. Do we see that?
No,
outside of the cafe at the UN.
No, it's outside of the UN. We do not see that.
That didn't show up in, like, because I read. Yeah, there hasn't been any tie-in comics that I haven't read at this point because I read Targets now. So
I wrote it down in my mind, but that's literally, I thought that maybe that was one of the notes above. But yeah, I want to see a tie-in comic where it's just, what is the Legion doing during all of these? Like when they're on the bench, like what were you doing leading up to eating chicken whizzies and watching Space Trek 3016? What did you do when you saved Connor? Like, and if it was a year ago, like there's so many things they could have been doing in the past year that we didn't see. Like that would be a really interesting tie-in comic.
Also, using that time bubble thing where you're teleporting instantly through time and space at the same time, that 3-month trip from Mars must have been a nightmare. Because they had to fly a month.
A month, yeah.
Right? It's a full month in Bioship. What are they going to do? All they're going to do is binge Space Trek. I mean, you know that Bioship has Space Trek.
Bioship has Space Trek and Hello
down.
Megan and whatever Connor's favorite show is.
And whatever Connor's doing.
Static.
Yeah.
Bioship has a white noise machine.
Yep.
It's Connor has like a whole bunch of DIY home network shows on. You know that's what that's what he does. No, you're shaking your head.
Yeah, he's got to learn how to fix things.
He's got to learn how to fix stuff that's broken. That's what he does. Yeah. He fixes broken things.
I just started imagining Connor having like one of those YouTube channels where he teaches you how to do like specific simple fixes. Like he's like like those people who are like, I'm your internet dad, but it's Connor.
Right.
Like I'm your internet fixer person.
What's interesting is that the only thing we've ever seen him actually do is turn a bolt.
He knows how to fix motorcycles. That's all we know he knows how to fix.
Well, but we've only watched him turn a bolt, though. I think that's all he's ever done.
Yeah, I've
he's talked about it.
Never seen it really broken down, like broken apart.
No,
yeah,
nope, that's true. He's just turning this same. It's the same bolt. I think it's the exact same bolt on a motorcycle.
I like it.
Yeah,
leave Connor be. He's a very good mechanic.
I'm sure he is. No offense, Connor. I do love you, my friend. You had something about Superboy's injuries.
Oh yeah, this is the episode where Superboy gets brutally injured by a space shark, and it's gonna go largely unacknowledged for the rest of the season, and then it's gonna become a real problem in the final couple episodes.
Yeah, actually, I do remember last episode when I was watching, I was like going, okay, I can kind of see the burns, but like, because it's been a while since I've watched it, so I'm watching it and then recording an episode, watching it, recording an episode, so I'm kind of like watching it at the same time. And I'd forgotten a bunch of stuff. So it's like I'm watching it for the first time again. And I'm like, I remember him being just wrecked. Like worse. And then we get to this episode. I was like, oh, right. Yeah. He got like his back just like eviscerated.
And it's just the thing of, I remember when watching these episodes for the first time being like, this feels like it's going to be a problem. but nobody's talking about it being a problem. Only for us to later, we have the episode where Phantom Girl gets back first and just immediately starts screaming in pain because her hand got really, really burned. And I'm like, yeah, that's our confirmation for Connor is going to be having a bad time in a few episodes. And then he did.
Just hearing Garfield, I'm hearing Garfield say that's going to leave a mark. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing that attacked him is the Devourer,
Yep.
which we get in the voice credits, which is interesting because it's not. I mean, I guess maybe that's the only way we'd know. I don't think it's named at any point. So that's how we know what it is called. And because we are in the Phantom Zone, and I can say that because we're in Crashing the Mode. So the Phantom Zone has weird origins in that the god Aether, the Oversoul, is basically the person who manifests it. It is his thoughts and ideas that create the... I'm not saying that's what's happening in Young Justice. In comics, when the Devourer shows up. In 1982, in the Phantom Zone miniseries, number 4, which I actually sat through and read, the idea that they basically Superman and another guy go into the heart of the Phantom Zone, which is like this weird crystal, and they basically fight the mind of this creature that is creating the Phantom Zone. But yeah, so it's there. I can see it. And Rich, do you remember from older comics was the Gnome de Guerre thing like a thing that Dick Grayson did regularly?
Gnome to get. What do you mean?
So you remember in like the previous episode where he's like has that kind of interesting intonation where he's like, "Your Gnome de Guerre."
Oh yes.
So in this, as one of the footnote style things, the guy that's with Superman uses his like more Kryptonian name and the Charlie's Gnome de Krypton. Which is the note from Dick in the comics. So I don't know if maybe this.
That's funny.
Hadn't realized it, but like
Sure.
maybe that was a comic book thing that it was like a Dick style
A regular
reference,
thing,
where he would refer to things as Gnome Day. Something.
It's Gnome Day. I'm not shocked about it though. He's supposed to have been able to speak 6 or 7 languages. So I'm sure he's always playing with stuff.
Yeah, so I just stumbled onto that as I was reading
That's funny.
1982
Gnome de
comic.
Krypton.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Nightwing, yeah. Like he would have, I don't know. He was fascinated by a lot of the stories that Clark would tell about Krypton and that he got from the bottled city of Kandor too, because Clark would go in there and learn about the past of Krypton and stuff like that. That's actually where the Nightwing Gnome de Guerre comes from. Nightwing was Nightwing and Flamebird, which were 2 originally Kryptonian gods, I guess. And then they were basically Batman and Robin like superheroes on Krypton in one of the cities, probably the bottled city of Kandor. When Dick needed a name from a new person to be, that's where the Nightwing name comes from. So he's fascinated by Krypton.
Okay, so we've all kind of mentioned this that we didn't quite remember. Holy crap, this arc is so complex here in the next couple episodes. Because Project Threnos is where we will learn that many things are being orchestrated by Vandal Savage in a very complex and somewhat confusing way. Because the Orm that is there is a clone of the original Orm, and the Aryan that is there is a clone of Aryan with Orm's Cyback in it, trained in a different way. And so the Aryan we see is a clone with Ocean Master's
clone of Aryan, but Ocean Master's memories?
Correct. So both Ocean Master and Aryan both have a Cyback from Ocean Master. One is trained to mimic the Ocean Master that they think should be there. The other is then trained to use the powers of Aryan to mimic being Aryan, to go and sit on and become the annex of everything so that Vandal has a seated person on that throne to be able to add order to 3/4 of the world.
Right. And then he can use this old magic because his old genetic structure that they rebuilt.
Correct. That he obtained from his grandson's flute, which apparently carried DNA on it all these years. Also, this is where my theory goes to 11, because when we see him standing there in the world, you see these little pods. And so from the very small place we can see roughly, we could equate to 20 or so pods. Because when he goes and puts the flute back, he puts it back in one of those, which I think is like the DNA sample and the Cyback are in each of those. This is wild speculation, but that is what we claim this to be. So hundreds and hundreds is my immediate assumption of the DNA and Cybacks he has. And interestingly enough, it's almost like souvenir, because it's like your DNA source is just, you have this flute still. Like you put the flute there. Like it wasn't like a hermetically sealed DNA sample that, like, when you think of like a lab, right. It's like you just have a flute. Like, okay. So yeah, that's a lot. Also, the widowhood is very interesting. It only gets referenced very quickly, but the tablet of the widowhood. So in Atlantean culture, the widowhood is basically, their ranks are made up entirely of widows whose husbands were lost at war. And they are basically like the more prominent Atlantean religious group. And they are tasked with like holding on to the like Atlantean tradition. So then it's like, okay, so you've brought up this ancient prophecy, then the people you need to discuss it with are the widowhood. And in recent, that's like a 2016 thing. And in recent versions, Mara becomes queen of everything, because in this like prophecy that they say, and this in the comics is he dies. She becomes what they call the fatal queen because she destroys the earth in her grief.
Oh my gosh. What is up with these women who lose their husbands, and then
it is a weird trope. I don't understand it at all.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's just WandaVision again. It's like, except the whole world
just sighs so heavily into eternity forever about this trope that exists so much in these things that I love. But I don't love that trope. Would love for that trope to stop being here.
Yeah.
Women can be both powerful and sad without ruining everything, actually.
It's actually funny. My son this morning had a very bad migraine, so we tucked him in, and he's like lying there. He's all tucked in. He's got him drinking water, gave him a little headache medicine. He's got the lights turned off. He's like, can you please turn on Kill Every Monster, the Dryads episode, please? And I'm like, oh, the magical ladies and trees. And he's like, yes, please. So he was listening to you this morning talking about stuff like, why is everybody being punished for falling in love? It's just ridiculous. Like, oh, you fell in love? You're dead.
Yeah.
You're a tree. You get banished to hell. Whatever. Like, something is always happening to these people is because they're like, hey, would you like to go on a date? Oh my God, I'm regretting all my life choices. Like, it's just wild that he's very excited about listeing to the Dryad episode this morning. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. It is.
So,
yeah. It is a very odd trope. I read that comic as well, and I was like, wow. Oh, just all in on that one. Just literally, there's just like just blood red. Also, Zebel's a penal colony, and she's from there. And the widowhood,
it's weird.
And the widowhood technically is like the yay or nay on whether or not the person is worthy to marry the king. I was like, all right, okay. And she's like, oh, it's because I'm from Zebel. And they're like, no, it's because we had this prophecy where you murder the world.
Yeah. Yeah, and Zebel used to be like half water elemental from another dimension. So like, I don't even know now. Like there's some stuff with her. I'd have to go back and take a look at it. We could do a whole Secret Origins on her too. But like, yeah, wild. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, the prophecy.
Don't mess with powerful magic women because they'll wreck the world, I guess.
No.
Oh, it's terrible.
The prophecy is going to culminate in another conversation where we say, I didn't mind, and the two of you will say, why did that happen? In case you don't remember. I'll leave it there.
All right. Well, like I said, I've decided I watched all of the Zatanna arc together. I binged all that. But this one, I'm trying to watch it one episode at a time. so that I can explore some of these questions in the same way as some of our listeners will be listening to it as well for this arc. And I think that's it. Emily, do you have anything else?
I'm good.
No, I think we're good. So with all that, I think we can Zeta out of the Watchtower.
If you'd like to join us in discussing this incredible series, you can find us on Twitter at the YJ Files, on our website, crashingthemode.com, and you can even email us at whelmedpodcast@gmail.com. You can also find us on YouTube, Stitcher, Spotify, and iHeartRadio.
And if you'd like to support our show, please consider sharing it with a friend and joining our chats on social media. You can also support the show by giving us a 5-star review and or rating on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice. The ratings, comments, and subscriptions help others find the show. If you do leave us a rating, please let us know at our email address or on social media, especially if you're outside the US, as we have to look a little bit harder to find those.
If you are able to support us monetarily, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/crashingthemode. Even $1 a month can help us bring you even more awesome discussion sessions, interviews, reviews, and more.
And remember, stay whelmed, everyone.
Whelmed, everyone. You just stopped, Neil.
No, I didn't. I went way faster. I knew it. I had it in my head that I would, and I did.
Dang it. Why are you doing this to me?
You've been listening to Whelmed, the Young Justice Files podcast. Our hosts are Rich Howard and Emily Booza. Our editor and producer is Neil Powell. Our theme was composed by Emily Mio. Our logo was created by Kevin Bates. Whelmed is a fan-made podcast and is not officially affiliated with DC Comics, DC Entertainment, Warner Brothers Animation, and any other owners of Young Justice or its related source material. As such, these companies have sole ownership of all symbols, images, names, logos, and proprietary material related to Young Justice. Original content of this podcast is ours under Creative Commons. Thanks for listening, and stay whelmed.